It's live! Wow, look at that. I have so many things going. I'm like a puppy dog with a biscuit. Wow, look at all this stuff. And it's delayed on one side, so it's over. Oh, hey, what's up? I'm in the future. Okay, why is this guy on your screen? My name is Dennis Santopietro, and I was lucky enough to start Fix My Hog back in 2004. And probably, if you're a member of the site, you don't see my face much because I don't do the camera thing too much. But want to jump on live with Nate Beck, who's also there on the screen touching his beautiful hat. And we want to do a live event to talk about his chopper build, his experience. Um, Mainly as he's a metal fabricator and a guy that just wanted to purchase a chopper and then immediately tear it apart and make it his own. Yeah, just like every other Harley rider that wants to take something and rip it apart. I do want to thank Haynes Manuel very much for sponsoring the last 12 or so live events that we've done. We really appreciate it. Haynes Manuel's one thing that growing up and when I got my first Harley from my brother, I gave him cash and he gave me the keys and a Haynes manual and said, good luck. So you have to have a manual, and also having a manual made me think of coming up with an idea to video and show what the manual is saying. So have all your resources, all your manuals, all your tools. Fix My Hog, of course. And also there is a free video download if you have a motorcycle that has error codes that shows up in the speedo. It's a great video to, if things start messing up on your motorcycle, great way to troubleshoot what's going on by pulling up the codes, and that'll point you in the right direction. So that's a free video. Make sure you download that when you get a chance. And here we are. The questions, do not click on the green box. I shouldn't have mentioned the green box. Click on the colorblind Dennis would say orange box where I put the already. So if you have questions for Nate, welcome everybody. Hi. Yes, our friendly host just said hello. So if you have questions for Nate about the build, please throw them in there. And he's been quiet and staring at me and saying, what is this guy talking about? Hey, Nate, good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. How you been, Dennis?
Good, good. I got some of my office back, which was a classroom gymnasium for a little while, and we switched that around. So, but you are in your shop, which is great.
Yeah, I'm here at my shop in St. Paul, 5th Street Customs, and I've got the chopper build that I worked on for the past. I started this in January, actually, on the January 23rd of my birthday was when I tore it down completely to bare frame and started it, and I rolled it off the lift. I think it was early April. I rolled off the lift and started breaking runs and kind of working the motor in and that kind of stuff, and threw it back up on the lift and looking at plugs and making sure it's still running like it should, and we're all good.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, if people are joining us that are members of the site, Nate Beck has been working with us for a couple of years now. He's done several ride and rally reports across the country where he's gone out and taken a ride in the Grand Canyon, Vegas, the Keys, and gave us a little snippet of being on the road. So make sure you check those out on Fix My Hog. Nate has also did a couple videos for us on his original purchase of this chopper. So check out those videos. There's links on the page, and I'll add some in here. And he's also done a video on, hey, what it's like riding a chopper compared to a newer motorcycle. And Nate, how did you get into riding? We know each other a little bit. I saw some pictures of you on a Jetski Racing at one point. Did that water turn into on land via motorcycle for you? How did you get into bikes?
So basically, what happened was my mom used to be the SVP of a group that put on motorcycle shows around the country, and I'd always go with her to the motorcycle shows. And I was always drawn to the Harley booth. My uncles rode Harleys, and when I was 12 or 13, I was like, "Mom, I want to race dirt bikes." And get a Harley when I turn 18, and all that. And she was like, "You're not riding a motorcycle. You'll way too many people crash and that kind of stuff." And I go, well, I love power sports. What can I do? And she said, I'll let you race jet skis, because before she was in the motorcycle industry, she was in the PWC industry.
Ah,
So I raced jet skis.
because water is softer. I thought water is just like concrete if you're going so fast.
Yeah, when you fly off a stand-up jet ski going around a corner off the backstretch, it hurts.
It hurts, right? No, you lied.
Yeah, and then other people hit you when you're floating, bobbing there in the water, But no, so she wouldn't let me get a motorcycle, and then so I did the jet ski thing for a while, and then I had moved out to LA, and I didn't really want to learn to ride in California and all that craziness.
Oh man, it's easy. You can split lanes and go fast and get hit by mirrors. It's cool.
Yeah, you can be splitting lanes, and the car can just change lanes, and then you're toast.
Purposely or not.
Right. But no, then I moved back to Minnesota, and I think I was here for like 2 months, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm getting a Harley. And I ended up buying, it was in 2015, I ended up buying a 2015 Sportster as my first bike. Still have that Sportster, still love that Sportster. You guys can check out Fix My Hog. I took that Sportster to Canada because all of my friends were like, you can't ride a Sportster long distance, and you can't take it on a trip, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, then I'm going to just go to Canada on it. And it's awesome. I love that bike. And I think Sportsters are very, they get kind of talked down upon for no reason. And I love them. And I would even go to say that the XL motor for Sportsters is probably the most reliable motor Harley ever made, because it's definitely not a shovel head.
Right. Sure. Well, it's proven technology that the Evo motor that's been proven forever, and I think there's been a big change where the Sportster was a girl's bike when I was a kid, which was a long time ago. Yeah. But now it's the baseline. We're posting videos right now, as on the Cafe Racer build, where we took an entry-level Sportster, broke it down, and building a cool Cafe Racer out of it. It's a great way to get in the market. It's a great way to customize a motorcycle at a lower cost level. And you can beat the crap out of them. You can ride them fast. And then, if you want it, you can accessorize as much as you want, like anything else. And, if you want to, you can drive it across country. I have an 09 Sportster, an 84 FXR. I love my Sportster. I live in San Diego. Jump on, bounce around. It's awesome. And then the other thing is, through your mom and her experience, and then through some folks at TN Marketing who owns Fix My Hog, we became acquainted. And luckily, you were familiar with Fix My Hog and using it a little bit to work on your Sportster, which is cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, because when I got my Sportster, I'd never even swung a hammer, and and it was great to get not only the instruction from Fix My Hog, but the visuals as well.
Right.
You're not super, because I learned by eye, so being able to watch the videos helped me do a lot of the stuff, and that's kind of what got me into wrenching, which is what got me into welding, which is what got me into fabrication, which is really kind of how I ended up here.
Exactly. Well, that's cool. I mean, we followed similar paths, except I didn't do the jet ski thing. But, it progressed from mini bikes, really to being allowed to ride a dirt bike, and then go-karts and whatever else came into play. And luckily my brother bought a house and needed money, so that got me my first Harley, which was the FXR. So it's cool how people get into Harley riding. We have a whole section on Fix My Hog just about Harley stories. and how people are fall in interest of Harley riding enthusiasts, how it trickles down through family members, like you said, uncles, grandfathers, fathers. It's really cool, and there's some great stories there that just show that enduring love for a brand and a motorcycle through the years. So make sure you check those out. If you have a great story, make sure to share it with us on that as well. So when we look at rides and rallies, we were in Communicado. You were actually in Milwaukee when things really started to get shut down. You were at what show was that?
That was at Mama Tried.
Mama Tried. And they literally that night shut the county or city said, sorry, we can't do this.
So what happened was I was going over there because all the industry goes in the day before, because it's Friday is the flat track races in the arena, and then Saturday, Sunday is a show, and the industry goes in on Thursday. And the guy that started Mama Tried, Scott Johnson, owns Fuel Cafe and throws this awesome pre-party, and everyone goes to the museum. So we were headed in on Thursday, and we literally drove. We left St. Paul, Minnesota. Drove 5 hours over. We went straight to the rave to get all of our press credentials, and we walk in, and there's one table that's like half set up and 4 bikes, and like nothing else is going on. And we're like, okay, this is kind of weird. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here to check in for press. And they're like, yeah, we just got the call about 5 minutes ago that we're shut down. Wow. And we were like, shut down for good or shut down for till. It was confusing, and literally Scott had gotten the call that it was, not going to happen. And, from what I heard through the grapevine was he was, trying his best to get something going somewhere else or even negotiate to have it going. I mean, there's tons of moving parts that go into.
Well, yeah, it's amazing how fast. It's amazing how fast everything got shut down too, right?
Because it
and then
it was done. Right. Yeah, and but there's a lot of people that traveled from a long ways to be there, and the Mama Tried crew and the Flat Out Friday crew were awesome, and they hosted some like gangster races in parking lots, and that's what I love about the motorcycle industry is it's like we can get shut down, but if we're all in the same spot, we're still going to find a way to have fun.
Sure. Next thing you know, you're jumping mini bikes over a van. Whatever works.
In the rain on a metal ramp, so.
In regards to that show, now, were you going to, your bike wasn't done. Was your bike going to be in
No, my bike was not
that show or with you? Right.
Yeah, actually, so it was, because that was when a lot of shows were still happening, and I was going to submit to Fuel Cleveland, obviously in Cleveland, and then I was going to submit to Congregation in North Carolina and Charlotte that's put on by the Prism crew. And then I was submitting to a couple local shows in the Midwest. And I had to have this done to get it shot and submitted. I think it was by March 15th, which is the day of Mama Tried. So I had to get it done before I left. Right. So I was here in the shop until like 1 a.m. the night before we went to Milwaukee to finish it. And we actually shot it in the dark outside with lights.
Right.
So it was like we were tired getting this bike done, shooting this bike, sending it off, slept like 3 hours, and then packed and went to Milwaukee, and it got shut down, and it was such a bummer. And now everything's shut down now, and it seems like they're talking about shutting down Sturgis now.
Sure. Well, let's get back to the bike. You've written articles for us about the purchase. Tell us a little bit more. Why did you want an older motorcycle? You knew some of the issues that come with them. Not even a stock motorcycle, so somebody has touched it. So why don't you just, why, how, and, bring us through some of the things, how you got it,
sure,
what you looked at, and then when you got it back, what else you found out.
So, I'd always wanted a chopper since I, when I was 13, I watched Easy Rider, much like a lot of us did. And, you see those choppers and that feeling of being on old American iron, and, living free and riding hard and all that kind of stuff. And a chopper to me is really just an extension of yourself. You build it what's in your brain and how you think a motorcycle should look. And you really can't get more individualistic than building a chopper. In terms of, using an old platform like a shovelhead that I did, or like a knucklehead or a panhead versus a newer motor like an Evo, or even a twin cam chopper, aesthetically, I think the older engines look a lot better. I think there's a lot more soul in the older engines. There's a ton more work with the older engines, but no, so I decided that I wanted a shovelhead. I couldn't afford a knucklehead. I couldn't afford a panhead, and I wanted, one of the old motors. So I settled on a shovelhead, and then I started researching transmissions because I knew I was going to change stuff on it when I got it regardless, but I wanted to get as much that I could out of the initial purchase of what I wanted. So, shovelhead, I knew I wanted a ratchet top transmission.
And for research, was this just all Google searches and nobody goes to the library anymore? So, just kind of like pulling as much information via, hey, let me look at shovelheads from when they start 60 something.
66 to 84, I want to say.
Yeah. So, you just start downloading all that information and going through it and making notes.
Yeah, and I actually researched shovelheads and transmissions for the shovelheads, and even there's Jenny shovels, there's cone shovels, and how the shovelhead changed throughout the years. When were the years of kick only? When did they go to electronic ignition? When was it points? What goes along with that? And I actually studied shovelheads for a good 7 to 8 months before I even contacted anybody that had one for sale.
Right.
So I knew exactly what I wanted.
What you were going to get into.
Yeah, and pretty much what I was going to get into with it. I didn't know exactly what I was going to get into, but you kind of. This was my first chopper and my first old bike, so it was kind of a hope and a prayer on a lot of things. And I'll get into the issues I came into, but the best. I think the best way to learn about who you are is to buy a chopper and try to build one.
Right.
So this originally came pretty close to what it looks like right now. I'll get out of the way. It had a different tank on it. It had a 1.5 gallon wassail tank on it. The engine I didn't change. The pipes were the same. And the frame is the same from when I bought it. And what happened was I bought it in 2018 in the spring, the early spring. And I got it, and it was running, it was running pretty well, and everything was great. And the first thing that I realized was on a 76 shovelhead with a super E-carb, you're only getting like 30 miles to the gallon, maybe a little bit more. So a 1.5 gallon is not going to take you very far.
Right.
But then it just kind of, as summer went on, I'd put like 1,000, maybe 1,500 miles on it, and it just started running kind of gross, like just not, poorly. And it wasn't like it ran great and then it ran bad. It was just like slowly, I woke up one day and went for a ride. I was like, this is not running well at all, and one of my good friends is a master mechanic at Harley and has been for 12 years. And he looked at it and he was like, well, let's take a look at the points. So we pulled the points out, and they were looking pretty gross. And he was like, man, I'd really suggest going to an electronic ignition. Daytona Twin Tech sells a great one. So we put a Daytona Twin Tech electronic ignition in there. And they actually have like the one I have in here, you can actually set it to kickstart mode. So they're super tunable. So we did that, and it ran a little bit better, but it was still running pretty gross. And we did a compression test on it, and the front cylinder was just so low. So we're like, all right, well, that's, valves or, there's something in there going on. So I was like, all right, well, it's pretty much fall now in Minnesota. I'll just ride my Sportster. We'll put this up on the lift and we'll take it out and, take it apart this winter. So we took out the motor, and then, and originally I was just going to fix the motor, and then that was going to be it. Originally. Yeah. So I took out the motor, and it was one of those things. I was like, well, if the motor's out of it, and I'm working on it, I might as well put.
I might as well. So you have to qualify each one of those. I might as well take out my wallet. I might as well. And it's lucky, you were doing it, and with a very qualified friend,
Yep.
which is great, which is Fix My Hog's all about is getting things done on your own. So you're saving because you're spending a
Correct.
lot of money because you're doing the labor.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
You know,
which is cool. It just there you go, have it,
have
and
you have your manual and have your Fix My Hog ready to go because you're going to need them.
and your wallet.
Yes, and your wallet. So I was like, well, I might as well do the tank as well. Well, when putting a different tank on it, I had to weld in bungs at a different distance into the frame. And luckily, I'm a welder and fabricator, so that wasn't any big deal for me. But what I noticed actually when I took the bike apart was whoever painted the frame had just spray painted the top of it. So the whole bottom of every tubing on the frame was just bare metal. And I was like, well, might as well get the frame powder coated. So I welded in bungs for the tank, got the tank done, was working on the motor. And then I was like, well, if I've gone this far, I might as well make a set of handlebars for it. And then I was like, well, I might as well make a sissy bar for it. And then I was like, well, I might as well just build a bike, because we had it down to get the frame to powder coat. We had it down to, bare frame.
Right.
When we tore into the motor, it was not a good scene. It basically, the previous owner put a 30 over kit on it. So, and the cylinders were all out of whack and out of spec. So with it already 30 over, there's not a lot of room to go even bigger.
Right.
And I'm one of those guys, I'm not really looking for performance. I'm looking for more reliability and runnability. So we actually went back and brought it back to a 74 inch. And then the carb was all messed up and we went through it and tried to clean it as best as possible. But I mean, the carb, I think we pulled the serial on it and it was from like the 80s or the 90s. So we just put a new carb on it. The spool hub in the front was messed up on its way out. So I ended up putting up a new 21 inch wheel and spool hub on that. The forks are the same. The headlight was bad. So I put a new one that fabricated a headlight mount. I think pretty much the only thing that we didn't do, the exhaust, the rear fender, and the seat. Everything else was either fabricated by myself or, purchased obviously from S&S and put on there.
So this whole time, I mean, luckily your shop is open.
Yep.
You're working, and then you're taking the time to go through that. And you said it took you a couple months.
Yep. Yeah. And that's including, sending stuff out to powder, sending stuff out to chrome, sending stuff out to paint, obviously, my buddy Andy was the one that rebuilt the motor, so it was kind of working around his schedule on that. I actually had all the fabrication done on it in like 2 weeks.
Right.
And the rest of it was just, because chrome takes 2 weeks and then powder takes a week and,
Sure.
reassembly and that kind of stuff.
Right. And your cabeza is right where the sissy bar is. Can you show us the sissy bar?
Yeah.
There you go.
So I do a lot of sissy bars for Sportsters out of my shop, and it was kind of like I wanted to do like a real crazy one-off sissy bar for me.
There you go.
And I named the bike El Texicano because I was born in Texas and I'm half Mexican. So I wanted to work in a Texas theme in there. So I started with the horseshoe idea. And then I actually twisted hex bar for the sissy bar itself portion of it. And then even on the mounts, I don't know if you can see, but that's all twisted hex in there as well. And then all the way down the side, and sent that out to Dubois Polish and Plating here in St. Paul, Minnesota. And, we did that. And then I really like when builders tie the front end of the bike and the back end of the bike stylistically together. So I did the same kind of style.
Oh, there you go. I didn't see that before.
On the headlight mount.
Cool.
And then the brace and the handlebars too. I got some twisted hex in there. And I put the lightning bolt in almost everything that comes out of this shop. I just really dig it. The handlebars are super narrow. They're, I think, 21 inches wide.
And the original handlebars were different on that, right? Were they?
Yeah, the original handlebars on it were, big apes.
Right.
And I fabricated a set of drag bars on it that were 24 inches wide.
Yeah.
And then my buddy Andy, who did the motor, he ordered a set of handlebars for me at 11 inches wide. And I took his bike for a spin, and I really liked that kind of like pulled back, kind of smaller rabbit feel.
Sure.
But I didn't want to go 11 inches wide, so I beefed it out a little bit, and
right.
I changed the radius of this, so it's kind of a lane splitter, kind of a rabbit, And then we got a little lowrider influence on there, and used chain for the fork stop.
Right.
And actually, right here is I had this dream to put a bottle opener on a motor, on a chopper forever, and I found this bottle opener from Southern Select Brewing, which is a brewery in Galveston in the 40s. And so when I was dabbing it, I just tucked that bottle opener right there on the down tubes.
That's awesome.
So,
and show the motor. You did there's some other work there too that wasn't there before.
Yep. So I did on the top, just some accent with the brass acorn nuts on the top, and the all the oil lines. I went with brass. We do these out of the shop here, the timing covers. We do these for almost any year Harley.
Awesome.
Kept the stock air cleaner on it, but this kicker pedal actually came on it, and I love mixing brass and steel, so left that on it, and the seat also had brass springs on it, so just kind of went with that vibe, and then kept the open primary on it as well. So it's been kind of it's definitely been a journey to get it to where it is,
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that I've been on a lot of different bikes via these Fix My Hog riding rallies. A lot of new bikes, the Heritage, Road Kings, and I love riding new bikes and checking out what the feeling you get from them. But the feeling you get when you start a bike that you built and you're going down the road, and half of it is just terror because you're like, I really hope I got the torque spec right on every single bolt. Sure. And the other half is just pure, oh my God, this is amazing. And every time I look at it, I'm like, that just came from my brain.
Sure. It looks awesome. And, the other part about that is, as you mentioned before, is you also ride differently on an older motorcycle. You're always listening.
Yes.
You're not looking for trouble or listening for trouble, but you're more in tune on, okay, everything's smooth, everything's cool, everything's smooth, everything's cool, chug it, and it's a focal thing about riding too, right? If you're riding a newer motorcycle or older, that's what's cool about riding. You're focused on the road, you're focused immediate on what you're doing. And that's why it's such a great escape.
Absolutely. And even, I ride a chopper differently than I ride like my Sportster, even beyond obviously you're listening to it more, but I don't have a front brake on this bike. I don't have turd signals on this bike. It's only a single throttle cable. So, when I'm riding, it's like, I know I can't stop very fast. I know that the car next to me if the car next to me misses my hand signal, it's not going to know I'm coming over. So I ride pretty defensively to begin with.
Sure. You have to.
But I ride really, really defensively, on the chopper. And I'll tell you, when you're coming up to a light and it's green, and you hit that zone where you're like, I don't have a front brake. If this thing goes red, I can't stop. That is, oh man.
The throttle's for. That's what the throttle's for.
Right, exactly. Sometimes,
right.
So it's definitely rougher, on a hardtail than, but at this tank is 2.1 gallon Frisco style, so I'm only going 60, 70 miles on it anyways.
Right.
So.
Well, it's cool. It's cool. And, obviously you did a lot of the work yourself, and some people catalog cost and some people don't, and some people want to share, but just you're not including the purchase price, which you already had the motorcycle, but
Sure.
just the rebuilding process of things that had to be done with the motor, the paint, which came out phenomenal. A lot of work, fabrication you did yourself, but cost wise, what do you think it did for parts that you didn't make, ran you?
Parts that I didn't make and cost of chroming and powder coat and paint, you're probably looking at $5,000.
Wow.
Around there. Yeah, probably about $5,000. And then I've got, if you calculate my hourly rate, you probably have another $6,000 in just shop hours.
Sure, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about your fabrication is you did the bars for our cafe racer.
Yep.
Which is cool, and people could see that on fixmyhog.com. But also you did 2 videos for our gold members, how to build handlebars.
Yep.
With limited tools.
Pretty limited, yeah.
And also how to build a very cool sissy bar. So folks could check that out. If you're a gold member, check it out. If you want to sign up to be a gold member, do that. Those are free videos that Nate did for us. Pretty cool on the fabrication side of it, and looking at the hours, like you said, that it takes to bend and twist and weld products. And it gives people a good idea that, sometimes when you look at some, you have to say, that only costs $250, because you just think of the hours that go into it, and that's before chrome or powder coat or shipping or getting it to your door. It's always good to see the work. And I think with Fix My Hog too is, we get so detailed on maintenance and performance, and really showing the step-by-step procedure that somebody could say, yeah, that's why it's 2 hours to put this on, or an hour to do this, or 5 hours to do this. So it's good for people to get an idea. And that's one of the things that we've always tried to do is, even if folks don't want to do their own maintenance or work on their motorcycle, they get an idea what goes into it.
Sure.
What the end product should be to keep a motorcycle running. But that really came out. It came out great. And
thanks, man.
You're going to have the opportunity. Now, we talked about before we jumped on this live thing that you've already been in a couple virtual shows.
Yep. Yeah. So, kind of when this coronavirus thing hit and everything started shutting down, all these like virtual shows started popping up, and they were hosted by, just like shops, random shops. And a lot of it was via Instagram and figuring out about it via Instagram. If it's Cycle Source did a really good one, a really big one. They call it the Motorcycle Revival and Cyber Rally. It was a whole day event. And they had music and bikes and like how-tos and interviews and stuff. And you basically just submit like you would submit to any in-person show. You just have pictures of your bike and you send it in and say, what is it? What did you do on it? What did you build? What inspired you? That kind of stuff. And I got picked for the custom bike show and that. And that was crazy because I was sitting on a list of there were Born Free builders in there. And it was a pretty big honor to be picked. I think there was only 60 bikes or 65 bikes picked worldwide for that. And this bike came in second in People's Choice.
Well done.
So that was super cool.
Yeah.
And then I got a call earlier today from Cycle Source saying they wanted to shoot the bike again tonight on their virtual bike night. And again, like the motorcycle industry, you can kick us, but you can't keep us down. All these, shops and magazines and, Fix My Hog and stuff, just still kicking out content any way we can just because we love bikes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's from the love of it,
absolutely
taking the enthusiast to the next level, it becomes the enthusiast to the passion to the, I just remember, if you washed your parents' car or something back in the day, you wash it. When you're washing something, you're looking at it, right? Is everything okay? Is the molding still on? Is there chips in the paint? And that becomes more. What else can I do? I change the fluids, and it just brings you more in tune
Oh,
with that
absolutely.
vehicle. And for us, when you only have two wheels under you, you should be very in tuned with that vehicle.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. And I think it creates. When I used to ride motorcycles and I didn't work the first couple of years of my Sportster, and I didn't do anything. I didn't work on it really that much. I enjoyed riding it, but then, when I started like logging on to Fix My Hog and like, okay, this is how you change the oil. This is, even how you go in to look at to see if your engine's throwing codes or,
right.
just real simple basic things that you guys think. And I started to create this deeper bond with my bike,
Sure.
which just rabbit holed into this.
And,
Um,
and like you said, the industry will always carry on. So '04, when Fix My Hog started, it was another rebirth of the industry, right? All the shows on TV, and there was a wait list at the dealership for bikes, and then there was the downswing of '08, '09, then the upswing again, and then we're dealing what we're dealing with now, and the motorcycle industry as a whole, power sports, motorcycles. We're looking for that next generation of riders
yep.
to be passionate about something. Um, Two wheels, four wheels, ATVs, whatever that is, and it will spark. It might not. It doesn't always look the same.
No.
It changes. It evolves, but sometimes it does look the same. Like what you've done. Some people always have an older soul, right? They're always going to want something that shows some vintage, some
Yep.
vintage. Um, it's just the way it is, and it'll always be there in some form.
Well, and that's kind of what I think is a little crazy about choppers because when I started going to these chopper shows, I didn't really expect them to be big. And you go to Mama Tried, and there's 100,000 people that go through those doors. And you go to Born
Exactly.
Free, and there's a gazillion people there, and you can get it's not choppers is not an elitist thing. You don't have to go drop 50 grand on a knucklehead chopper to ride a chopper. Some of the best choppers I've seen are old XS 650s, some Yamaha chops that you can pick up for 2 grand.
Well,
And that's way
right.
cheaper than any new Harley off the showroom.
And the cool part about that too is, I have I, I've been making my father write stories when him and his buddies rode from Connecticut to Montreal in '58 on panheads, and you know eh, with baling wire and a screwdriver. Um,
Yeah,
so those are great stories, and you always hear them, and it's always cool. Um, and then when I lived in LA, I went. We did the Love Ride, and there was a smaller show up in Ventura that we did all the time, and there was always shows around. And Born Free, right?
yep,
Which I guess I haven't been to in forever. I went last summer, and it was kind of back to get on something and ride it, and have enough know-how to get you there and back, because
yep.
there were some I guess rat rods, whatever the new terminology is for people are just finding motorcycles and they want to ride, they want to get into the game at a lower price.
Yep.
Um, and there's not a lot of frilly paint on a lot of the ones that are in the grass. It was a really cool show that I hadn't been to in forever, to see that motion is still there, that enthusiast,
Oh
that
yeah.
lover of the ride, um, and so many older bikes that were there on the grass.
Yeah.
I like it.
And I think it seems like, the knucklehead's been big forever, but I'm seeing more and more flathead choppers coming out. And I'm almost kind of wondering, is that going to be the next big boom?
Sure, sure. And we've been talking with a couple guys back east, and that's all they do. So it's supply and demand. How many
Totally.
engines and bikes are out there.
Yep.
And that's like you said, it's also a cost thing. If there's more of 1 year or model or engine type, the cost is going to be a little bit lower to get into the game.
Yep. Yeah, you can get into the chopper game with a Sportster motor for not a lot of money.
Absolutely. And for so if anyone has a question for Nate, please let us know. This orange box, please drop a note in there. And I'll put up links to Nate's company if you're interested in purchasing handlebars, sissy bars, fabrication work. He does a great job. But if you have any questions, put them in the orange box. And so for virtual, other than what's coming up, so did Cincinnati or have any of the other, a lot have canceled, but have any other said we're just going to do some type of virtual?
Yeah, so I haven't heard. I got an email back from Fuel Cleveland. They said originally, I think it was no, yeah. So I got an email back from Fuel Cleveland. They're like, we're done. We're just not going to do it this year. The lowbrow get down got canceled, and then I got an email from Congregation. They were going to move it to October,
Right.
And I haven't heard if that's going to go forward and happen or if that's kind of done. I got an email. The bike was picked to be a featured bike at Iron Invasion in I think that's in Des Moines. No, Iron Invasion is in October in Dubuque, and Vintage Torque Fest is in Des Moines, and that got moved. That was supposed to be May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, I think, and it got moved to 4th of July weekend in July. So the bike is supposed to be in Des Moines at Vintage Torque Fest as a featured bike. I don't know if what's going to happen. It's this world's changing every day.
Sure. Well, they're going to, like those motorcycle storage domes, there's going to be a little breather, and they're going to put a dome over you and the bike, and people like put a message, "Nice bike, dude." You're going to walk by in hazmat suits. Who knows? It is crazy, but it's changing, and people are figuring it out, and we'll move forward.
The silver lining is coronavirus can't go 70 on a Harley. So the safest way is to ride your bike all the time,
Exactly.
So get in the garage and work on your bike by yourself and get it running and go ride it with your friends 6 feet away from each other.
Exactly. And I've ridden more, I think, since January than I've had in a long time, just because it is that escapism that, just get out, even if it's a half hour, 2 hour ride, just go and,
Totally.
be by yourself. And especially if you're been sequestered with others in a smaller environment, it's mental health for all involved. Daddy, it's time for you to go for a ride.
Oh, darn. All right, I guess I better go.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad the build went awesome for you. The shows will pick up again. I'm glad you're being featured in a bunch of stuff. You deserve it. That's cool.
Thank you.
And once again, I'll put all the information about your shop, how to connect with you, for folks to check it out. And hopefully we'll get together soon and make some, I guess this is a real video, but we'll make some real videos with a couple cameras in the shop and do some stuff.
Oh, we still have to go on that ride, man.
Yeah, we got chiefed on a couple rides. The coastal trip of California with Eagle Rider, and then you and I were going to just rent a couple bikes in Arizona. And then I've been looking at the weather. I'm like, well, if they let us go, now it's like 110. That window is fast.
For that ride I did, for that ride and rally, I went from Phoenix to the Grand Canyon to Vegas in July, and it was 116 degrees, and it was brutal. Yeah. Amazing views, had a great time. I definitely suggest not doing it in July.
So we'll hopefully spark all those rides up. Maybe we'll get to do the coastal one over here in California in the fall, and then jump on that Arizona ride in the spring. we just got to get back out there. It's just how do we get to that meeting point to
to make it happen.
So we'll do it. We'll make it happen. And well, thanks for the time, and thanks for sitting down. And I think if our parents at least chimed in and watched, that's cool. We had some viewers checking us out, which we appreciate. Thank you very much. No questions for my man here, but he's always available, and I'll send up his information as well. Well, cool. Thanks so much, and I'll see you down the road.
Absolutely, buddy. Take it easy, man.
All right. Peace out.